Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of SAATH podcast series. We're thrilled to welcome Representative Suhas Subramanyam. Representative Subramanyam was born in Houston, Texas, and raised in Virginia, where he would later become a pioneering political figure. A graduate of Tulane University and Northwestern Law School, he served as a White House technology policy advisor under President Obama before launching his political career. In 2019, he made history as the first Indian American elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. Now representing Virginia's 32nd District in Congress, he advocates for innovation, public education, and civil rights. A rising voice in public service, he brings a deep commitment to equity and progress. Thank you, Representative Subramanyam, for joining us today. We're just so honored to have you on our show today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I guess the first question that we have, and it's going to be something that's pointed towards our young South Asian audience, is what inspired you to first get involved in public service, and what advice do you have to South Asian youth who are interested in politics and want to balance those cultural expectations we have?
Sure. Public service really started as service. My family raised me to give back to the community, and that giving back was a part of being, part of our world and an integral part of who we should all strive to be. And so growing up, I had a sense of service already, but it was really in college that I ended up getting more involved in political service and policy. And I worked during in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. I was in New Orleans. I started getting more involved in community service projects, and it was just me, trying to give back and feeling like I could be a part of a rebuild of a city. And I started working with the city council there, realized many of them were corrupt, and actually ended up starting to see if I could make some change myself. And, I actually had a job offer from the FBI and another job offer from a campaign, and I chose the campaign, but I know that would have been a very different path. But it was also would have been a way of serving as well. But every time I try to quit politics, it keeps reeling me back in, and so I've embraced it. So I've worked in the private sector quite a bit, but I love serving, especially in the policy realm, because you can make a huge impact. I mean, some of the things we do, even debating right now, are trillions of dollars and money going to projects that benefit millions of people, and so that's really great way to try to, give the people a voice and serve. So that's sort of how I got involved in the beginning. But I always say to people, you don't have to be in Congress to get involved. Whatever you want to do, just start doing it right now. If you want to be someone who, helps with education policy, just reach out to teachers in your community and see, what changes need to be made. And that's what I always tell people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, thanks for sharing your story. But also, Rohan and I can both empathize with this strong pull of politics that no matter where you go, no matter what happens, politics is always surrounding us. It's kind of hard to get away. And so unfortunately, I think the 2024 election kind of felt that way for a lot of people, including us, where this is the time that we need to get politically involved, whether we like it or not. But I think at the same time, for a lot of people in our community, they became politically involved more towards the right, and they became kind of more infatuated with Trump and his, appeal. And so we would love to know, given the results of the 2024 election, how do you interpret the continued appeal of Donald Trump among certain voter demographics, specifically South Asians?
If you take Donald Trump at his word, there are some things that I see could be appealing to some in our community. He promises to end all wars. He promises he can both lower your taxes and still keep all your benefits. And, he even has, he'll talk about the golden age of America, right? And so it sounds really appealing. The reason why I've always been very opposed to Donald Trump is because he's simply not a man of his word. He's made promises and not delivered over and over and over again. And but he's a master marketer, and so he's able to convince people that what he's saying is true. And even when there's clearly something wrong with his policies, he and his administration now, because he's hiring loyalists all over, will simply distort the truth or simply lie. And we see that over and over again. And you'll even have certain parts of the administration brief reporters on what happened, And then the Trump White House will say, well, no, we should not tell them the truth. We should tell them our own truth, right? Our own version of what happened, which is usually not true. And then you get conflicting messages. So I think that's why, but I see why he could be appealing on the surface, but I see it as my job to hold this administration accountable and let people know that, this is not a truthful or an administration with any sort of integrity.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point. And I think when you talked about how it's your responsibility to hold Donald Trump accountable, that's kind of the role of Congress right now. And we're seeing a lot of trust in Congress fall apart, unfortunately, whether it's on both sides of the aisle. And so, I guess this is kind of a policy question stemming off of that. One of the biggest things that Donald Trump has implemented is these mass deportations and immigration. So to pose that to you, what can Congress do to repair the damage and restore trust in our immigration system itself and the role that Congress has in it?
Sure. Congress has come up with bipartisan solutions to this issue before, but they've simply not passed. And it's often, last year we had a border bill that Democrats and Republicans put together to secure the border. And Donald Trump actually unraveled that bill. And this year, they're trying to instill fear. I think that's been their border strategy, is to show up at schools and rip kids away from their schools, rip people away from their community and their job sites. My goal is to actually have comprehensive immigration reform, and that means giving people who've done the right things for many years a path to citizenship, and trying to figure out how to do long-term sustainable immigration policy that benefits our country. And instead, right now, we're punishing people for not agreeing with the administration. They're weaponizing the immigration system and lack thereof, really, to detain people that they don't like. We had one man in my district who was a Trump voter, yet he was detained as well because he was Hispanic and they thought he was illegal. And so, that's sort of where we are right now. And the combination of a lack of immigration policy, Trump's idea of just using this as a political football, and the incompetence of this administration has led us to where we are right now.
Yeah, it really does seem like Trump's strategy is, if there's a problem with the single system, you need to burn the entire system down. And we kind of see that with everything. Like, of course, there's problems with bureaucracy, but that doesn't mean that you should fire all the hardworking, intelligent, like bureaucrats that are doing work that could be the next big thing. Like, the government needs to do more good work, and just tearing down the government is not going to help that or do anything really to make that better. And so kind of going off of that, within the higher education system, for a lot of college students, we are seeing Trump do exactly that, where fine, there might be problems with some of the higher education system, but that doesn't mean you need to strip all government federal funding from it. And so off of that, with the Trump administration's past funding cuts to education and research, how can we build a stronger, more equitable higher education system for South Asians, but all students?
Yeah, one way to do that is affordability. And one of the concerns I have is by trying to eliminate the Department of Education, we're already seeing it. People are having problems with their student loans already. And so it's just making the problem worse. And that's often what happens with this administration, is they see a problem and they go overboard in a very partisan way, fixing it and making a big scene about it and doing great marketing around what they're doing, great photo ops, but then they make the problem worse in the end that they're trying to solve. And so higher education is another one. I think just giving people access to higher education is a big problem. And a lot of parents now are starting to see that community college might be a better plan for at least a couple of years and transfer to a four-year college, because four-year college is becoming less and less affordable. But this administration right now is not. This is a president that started a for-profit college, right? And so he does not care about making college affordable, or he has a lot of disdain for higher education, it seems, and I think that's going to be really harmful to our country, because it's both where a lot of our students are trained, as well as a big place where a lot of research happens as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we see in kind of a weird way, Donald Trump also attacking what comes after higher education, which is the employment sector, right? Specifically with all the federal employment cuts that we've seen, or what Doge has described as a thinning of the fat. As somebody who has worked in public service, had offers from federal workplaces like the FBI, and as the three of us have all worked in public service and had jobs in the federal sector, you've worked on also strengthening that federal workforce for people across this country and in your district. And so, I just kind of want to ask and give you the platform to talk about what specific protections are you focused on for the federal workforce and how they affect not just South Asians, but all immigrant professionals.
Yeah, Doge came in, and Doge was made up of a lot of people who didn't know how the federal government actually worked. Some of them actually admitted publicly, one of them did it publicly, that the federal government is more efficient than they thought, and that they understand the problems. And I've always said that the federal government, the problems with the federal government's inefficiency is mostly due to regulations, political regulations that Congress has put in place. And I've tried to, even now, we're working up a proposal to try to get rid of those regulations. But, my thought on this is we're losing the best and brightest in our federal government. There's a brain drain now in our federal workforce. The people who are leaving are not the lazy people who weren't getting anything done. In fact, there are a lot fewer of those than people think. It's the experienced people who, can solve a problem in an hour that would take a lot of people many days or weeks. And what's going to happen now is our government's going to, have poor service for the American people. It's going to solve less problems. It's going to make us less safe, less healthy, and it's going to hurt every single American.
Yeah, we completely agree. And we also are seeing that kind of happen right now, where there's not just a brain drain from the federal workforce, there's a brain drain from immigrants coming to this country who can, build and innovate and start the new, next big company here, just because Trump is isolating immigrants and is making them feel like they're not included within the American dream and within this country. But kind of moving away from the policy side of this conversation, we'd love to know, is there any specific South Asian media you've watched recently or just that you've grown up with that you'd love to shout out?
Growing up, I would watch a lot of Hindi movies, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of Amir Khan, and my mom was a big fan of those, and so I'd watch what she watched. But lately, I think I represent a large Telugu-speaking population, and Tollywood, or whatever you want to call it, has become really big right now.
Yeah.
And, like RRR and some of those movies. So my wife and I love the Telugu action movies lately, and so we watched a couple.
Very fun. Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
What's that?
Do you have a favorite South Asian movie?
There's one called Kalki 2072 or something. It was like a Mahabharata, but in the future in an action movie. So it was really, kind of silly, but a lot of fun. And I think you're going to have a sequel soon.
Yeah, something that I think a lot of people have responded with, and we kind of want to get your thoughts on, is that Lagan is one of the greatest South Asian movies of all time. I think Rep. Jayapal, who we work with, has raved about Lagan for maybe 5 minutes. I think we have to get your thoughts and response on that.
Oh yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I remember watching it several times as a kid, and my family loved that movie. And I was. What's the Kush Kush Hota Hai was a big one in our family too. Just kind of like the blockbuster hits. That's usually all we watch. 90% American movies, but it was fun to. My mom would want to watch an Indian movie once in a while to have that experience.
That's it. Yeah. I think Three Idiots also just has to hands down be up there. It's just especially with the whole Department of Education stuff. It's just education right now is just more important than ever, and I just love kind of how the movie portrays that.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Well, that's a wrap on today's conversation with incredible Representative Suhas Subramanyam. So thank you so much, Rep. Subramanyam, for reminding us why South Asians belong at every table where decisions are made. If this episode got you fired up and ready to take political action, share it with your community, your family WhatsApp group, your neighborhood auntie, everyone you can. Use your voice, and remember, you always have the power to create change. Join SAATH.